This occurred in 2009. I was 22 years old, and I was leaving my home state of California to head east for my corrections job. I was driving down US Route 50 in Nevada, often called the loneliest highway. It was around 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning. They don't call it the loneliest highway for no reason. I hadn't seen another soul for at least half an hour. I was getting sleepy, but I wasn't tired enough to pull over and take a nap. That's when I saw a broken down car on the side of the highway. I slowed down and saw a woman standing next to a car. I approached this woman with caution, rolling down my window just a sliver. Something about her wasn't right. I couldn't put my finger on it. But I now know it was my subconscious screaming at me for ignoring the red flags. I asked her if she needed me to call a tow truck or AAA, but she immediately tried to open my door. I explained to her that I didn't feel comfortable letting her in, but that I would wait until a tow truck came. She immediately got this look of rage on her face and began berating me. "You're a big guy. What am I going to do to you?" This is where I fucked up. I can see this now all these years later. I begrudgingly unlocked my door, figuring that she was right. She was at most 5'2" and I'm over 6 feet and had at least 100 pounds on her. She looked to be about 90 or so pounds. She slips in. I asked her who I can call. At the time I had one of those BlackBerry slide phones. She starts telling me that she would just prefer if I gave her a ride to the next town. Now I'm starting to realize that I have made a horrible mistake, because she's avoiding eye contact and fumbling around in her purse. When I mentioned calling for help again, she became aggressive, demanding that I just take her to the next town. I was so busy trying to unfuck this situation that I missed a man who was either hiding in or around her car. It wasn't until he was almost to my driver's side door that I managed to catch him in my rearview mirror. Fight or flight kicked in. I put my car in drive and sped off right as the fucker was reaching for my car door. As I raced down the highway, I heard a ping noise and then my rearview mirror exploding. This lunatic was shooting at me. The adrenaline alone had me doing near 90, and by this time, the woman had realized in whatever drug-induced stupor she was in that her little plan had failed. She started hitting me, telling me to stop and let her out. When I reached enough of a distance, I did just that. I pulled over and demanded that she get the fuck out of my car. She began going for the oversized purse she had, but I had enough and was literally shaking with adrenaline as I reached over, opened the door, and pretty much shoved her out. I tried grabbing for her purse in case she was going for some kind of weapon, but she managed to hold on to it, but not before dumping half of what was inside on my passenger seat. I sped off with my door still open, and waited until I got a good distance from her before I slammed it shut and locked it. I clenched the wheel and drove, as if I was on autopilot. It wasn't until later that morning that I pulled into a Denny's that it finally dawned on me how close I was to pretty much dying. It was only then that I saw the things that she had spilled onto my passenger seat. Most of it was nasty watered up napkins, a few tubes of lipstick, and drug paraphernalia. I had considered calling the cops or finding a highway patrol, but I tossed all of her things into a trash bag and threw them away. At the time, I dreamed of becoming a cop, and I knew if I got caught with this drug paraphernalia, that would have been impossible. I didn't think they would believe it wasn't mine. I then noticed a police car at the gas station across from the Denny's, and I ended up telling him what happened. He pretty much berated me for pulling over and allowing her to get in. But he did say that he would look into it, but I doubt he did. I never did replace that mirror because I ended up selling that car, as where I live now didn't require me to have one. To this day, I hesitate to stop and help stranded motorists, especially out on those desert roads. It's more than likely a trap. I'm a female and this happened over 25 years ago, when I was 16. During this time, I lived with my mom and stepfather in a remote area 70 miles west of Las Vegas, Nevada. I had gone to visit with my friends, being allowed to drive myself for the first time ever. I had a good time watching movies and hanging out with my friends until it was time to head back home. The curfew I was given was 10 p.m., with the caveat that if I was running late for any reason, I would have to find a payphone and call. So there I was, on my way back home in my old 71 Chevy pickup truck, with the night wrapped around me, as there were no street lights or houses for most of my way home. As I pulled up to the first two stop signs, I could see an old sedan. Older model cars are still pretty common in that area. It was stopped in the middle of the road with its hazard lights on. I pulled up behind it and waited, as a man in his 30s or 40s started walking toward me from the driver's side. At this point, I didn't have any alarm bells going off. Being in the middle of the Mojave Desert, providing assistance to stranded people was pretty common. You can quickly get yourself into a severe situation by not having enough water when a vehicle breaks down or not realizing it's a fucking desert and people die wandering deliriously away from the highway trying to find help. Anyways, I rolled down my window. As the man came up to my driver's side door, I could smell liquor on him. I could see that there was someone else in the passenger seat. This was a time before cell phones were common, and the nearest payphone was a good 10-minute drive away, so there was no way for me to call the cops on a drunk driver in that moment. The man explained that his car stalled and asked if I could help him out. I then asked if his car was stick shift, which it was. "Do you want to try and push start it?" He said yes, so I agreed to gently push their car with my truck while they turned the engine over. For anyone that isn't familiar, this is a way to start a manual car that is having battery or starter issues, just to get it to somewhere to work on it. I knew my truck would be fine, and I didn't feel like it was wise to get out and try to push their car physically. Push starting the sedan worked without a hitch, but here's where things go south. They get back out and thank me. They then invite me to come hang out and have some fun with them. I politely decline. They pull off to the side of the road, and I continue on my way. However, they start following me. At this point, it was around 9:50, and I was now running late because I stopped to help them. Admittedly, I hadn't given myself much leeway from leaving my friends. These drunk, creepy older guys were now on my tail, without any lights around except for our vehicle's headlights, and I'm at least 10 minutes away from the nearest payphone. I think to myself, maybe I'm just being paranoid, so I turned down a road that I knew would give me a couple of turnoffs to either head back to town or loop around to a gas station that had a payphone. The car follows behind. I'm now thinking, shit, and take another turn that only leads to a couple of houses at the end of a road, and they turn behind me. I then take another turn to loop back around to the gas station, and they stay on me. So at least now I know they are following me and not just heading home. At this point, my heart is pounding. I decided to try something to lose them. I pull off to the side of the road, and I see them come up behind me. I wait till the driver gets out of his car and begins walking towards me. His companion also got out and approached my truck from the other side. I then waited until they almost get to my tailgate before flooring it. My wheels dig into the rocks, causing a cloud of sand to jump up behind me. With a head start, I head towards the gas station. This particular gas station is deserted, but there was still a working payphone by the pumps. I call home and explain what happened and why I was running late. I wasn't in any trouble, but my stepdad told me to hurry back home. There was no further incidents the rest of the way back. Looking back now, I think those two drunk idiots wanted to have their way with 16-year-old me On my first night driving alone, I want to apologize that some of the parts of the story are a bit fuzzy for me because this happened many years ago. Also, this will sound like a bunch of teenage drama at first, but I promise you, by the time this story is done, you will be shocked at how things unfolded. I met Jamie in middle school, and the two of us hit it off right away. We both had similar interests, and I enjoyed her fiery personality a lot. About a year after we met, she moved from the East Coast to Las Vegas, Nevada, but we still stayed in touch, talking almost every day after school or during the summer. We were extremely close and shared almost everything with each other, including secrets we told to no one else. In short, we knew each other well. When we entered high school, our dating lives were no exception to this. We shared who we had a crush on and would console each other whenever one of us had a breakup. We even entertained the idea of dating each other because of how well we got along, but decided the long distance thing just wouldn't work out. One day, out of the blue, she mentioned a guy named Ryan. Jamie went to school with him. He was quiet, shy, calm, but very smart. She mentioned to me that they were dating, and I was a bit confused. She had never spoken about him before, and she procrastinated a bit when I asked her for details. But the general gist was that he had had a crush on her for a long time, and finally worked up the courage to ask her out. She accepted, and I didn't think anything of it. After that, I was slowly introduced to Ryan. At first, he was added to our IM chats, which we used whenever it was too late to be on the phone, or when the batteries on our cell phones died. He didn't really talk much, but he seemed okay whenever he did. He started to pop up more often, and I grew to generally like him. We would all sometimes three-way call each other, and he was added to a Google document of ours as an editor, where we would work on collaborative fiction. It was the summer of 2009, I think, and I saved up some money to visit Jamie in Las Vegas. It was an incredible trip, and I still remember it to this day. At the time, Jamie and Ryan were taking a break from their relationship, but I still met him one day, and he seemed pretty normal to me. He was tall, about 2 years older than us. He had dark hair, dark eyes, tan skin. We spoke briefly, and I don't really remember what about. When I returned from Vegas, my contact with Jamie waned a bit. I figured it was because of us going back to school and starting to prep for college and different programs. Phone calls became less frequent. She stopped logging into her chat and kind of just went silent. I was occupied with my own activities, and I didn't want to press her while she was busy. Next spring, she called me late one night. Something had happened, something involving Ryan. She was crying and panicking and apologizing profusely. I couldn't understand her, and it took almost an hour for her to calm down. Eventually, after she stopped sobbing, she laid out everything to me from the beginning. About a year prior to this, she had started dating Ryan. He just randomly approached her one day at school and said that they were dating, despite them never having spoken before. He seemed like a really nice guy, and she figured it was his way of getting over being shy and asking her out, so she accepted. She also figured that he had had a crush on her for a while because of how much he seemed to know about her, despite having different circles of friends and no contact. Slowly, he became more and more controlling, especially when it came to her contact with other people. He demanded to go with her whenever she went out with friends, even if he hadn't been invited. He would cut in and become a part of every conversation she had at school. He declared that they had to meet in the hall between every class, even if that meant she had to run across the school to avoid being tardy. As Ryan became more involved in her life, He began to zero in on her interactions with me. He asked to be added to our chat sessions. He knew we were close and had thought about dating before. He wanted to know what we were writing together. That's why she added him to our Google Doc. And though she kept it a secret how much me and her talked on the phone, he requested to be added each time we did. Their break was really because she had told him that I was coming to visit. He had asked her to tell me to stay home, despite having planned this trip for months, but she refused. I ended up meeting him while I was there on accident, and she was legitimately scared that he might have done something to me. After I went back home, he apologized and tried to make it up to her. It was textbook abuse with the cyclic nature of their relationship. He would mistreat her, then love bomb her, until she took him back. He eventually started pressuring her to cut ties with me again, and started lying about hurtful things I had said about him or her. She didn't believe any of it, but he wore her down with persistence. He would constantly check her phone and computer to see if she had reached out to me. Things got to a point where she snapped and said that she was going to call me and tell me everything that was going on, and that she was going to leave and move in with family who still lived on the East Coast. He responded by shoving her to the floor and almost breaking her arm. He then stormed out when she cried, but she didn't follow through with her threat. He called the next day and apologized, saying that he would allow her to call me on Sunday and would make up for everything he did by taking her hiking on Red Rock Canyon on Saturday. She cautiously accepted and went about the rest of her week. It was Friday night, around 8 p.m. Jamie gets a knock on the door. It's the police, and they wanted to speak to her and her mom. They came in and proceeded to tell her that they had gotten a tip from one of Ryan's friends that he was planning on murdering Jamie. They got a warrant and searched his room and car. They found a detailed suicide note about his plans to drive Jamie out to the Nevada desert, kill her, and then take his own life, so they could be together forever. They found several knives in his car. After the cops left, she called me right away and spilled everything, and apologized for keeping this all from me. She felt like she could handle this all on her own, and didn't want me to be involved. We ended up staying on the phone all night until the two of us fell asleep. We started talking on a regular basis again after that, but I've sadly fallen out of contact with her since. I still check up on her Facebook from time to time. She's moved back to the East Coast and appears to be living a happy life. As for Ryan, I believe that he was committed to a mental health facility and is still there to this day. I'm not sure what charges were brought against him exactly, but he was declared mentally unfit for trial, and Jamie still has a restraining order against him. It just freaks me out that something like this could happen to someone I was close with. I spoke to this guy, met him in person, and yet he was likely already planning to kill my best friend at that point. I still get shivers when I think about him. The police never revealed who tipped them off, but I'm grateful that they did, because I can't even imagine how things would have turned out if they hadn't. We would all sometimes three-way call each other, and he was added to a Google document of ours as an editor, where we would write collaborative fiction. Okay. Okay, here we go. Stop. Just stop. Okay. Let's do this. We've been through worse. We have been through worse. Okay, we can do this. Oh my God. I'm going to have to take a break. I'll come back and I'll I live in Los Angeles. My friends and I were hiking in the Sierra Nevadas last weekend. During our journey, we discovered an old journal in a wooden box. It was in a dilapidated little shack that looked like it had been abandoned for a long time. I decided to transcribe what was in the journal and share it here. August 14th, 1848. Tomorrow we enter the mountains. It's going to be the most difficult part of our journey, but because of the new, faster route, we should arrive safely at our destination weeks before the first snowfall. Today, Jeremiah and I succeeded in killing a rabbit to add to this evening's stew. Everyone was most pleased with the extra food. I long for the day that I can sit by the seaside, our pockets full of California gold, and feast upon the bounty of delicacies the West has to offer. September 28th, 1848. We have yet to cross the mountains. The new route is saturated with fallen logs and streams. Our progress has been tedious. It seems as if the second we cross the treacherous stream, another obstacle appears on the road ahead. Even so, I sincerely believe that we will indeed arrive in California soon enough, just a bit behind schedule. October 4th, 1848. The rear wheels on the Smith family's wagon simultaneously splintered to pieces on the trail today. We shall have to delay ourselves yet another day to repair the damage. I fear that we are not moving fast enough. There was a distinct chill in the air today. October 24th, 1848. Snowflakes fell today. I have come to realize that we are not going to make it out of these mountains before snow falls. We make a mile a day, and that discounts any foreseen circumstances, which have become quite common on this journey. Broken axles, injured horses, etc. We have enough rations to last a month, at best. God help us. November 18th, 1848. I believe that it would be easier to travel to the moon in our wagons than to traverse these so-called trails. Even without the snow, they appear to be more for animals than wagons. It became impossible to move the wagons after the first big storm. We did what we thought was best, disassembled the wagons to build a series of makeshift shelters. 2 for us and 1 for the oxen. We've since been living off our rations, which we've taken sparingly to prolong them. Even so, we are undeniably running out. I don't know what we will do when the food is gone. I dread the day that I have to find out. December 3rd, 1848. The last bit of our food was stewed for tonight's supper. Tomorrow, we intend to butcher one of the oxen. We plan to make the beasts last as long as we can. December 25th, 1848. We have 2 oxen left. I anticipated the meat would last much longer. The snow will not melt for a good while now. The thought of my children going hungry as I stand by helplessly sickens me. Our celebration of Christmas was composed of a bit of caroling and an extra slab of meat. January 13th, 1849. I had to club the dog today. I was fond of that loyal hound, but I love my children more. I cannot bear to watch them starve. So I did what had to be done. Jeremiah, being the oldest, understood that it was something different than the oxen, the last of which was consumed the day before last. He asked what it was. I told him that I managed to dispatch a pair of squirrels. I don't think he believed me, but he held his tongue. Now what shall I do? Every living creature that has accompanied us has been eaten. January 21st, 1849. For the past week, we've been eating thin soups made from evergreen leaves and the leather of our boots and belts. Now, even this meager source of nourishment has been depleted. We never should have come here. February 6th, 1849. Mary passed on today. She was so frail. We are all nowadays. I'm the only one left with the strength to dig a hole in the snow for her final resting place. I was so tired. I was so hungry. She is dead. My dear, sweet daughter is gone. The dead do not know nor care what happens to their body. This is how I rationalized it. I took only a small bit, just enough to sustain me. Even so, I am ashamed of my actions. February 9th, 1849. I feel different now. Yesterday I gave in to the hunger, the ever-present hunger. I returned to my daughter's grave, dug up the frozen corpse of my child, and I fed until there was nothing left but bones. I feel different now. February 17th, 1849. I'm so hungry. I'm starving. As I watch my children grow weaker, I rejoice. The sooner they die, the sooner I eat. February 24th, 1849. The only child left is Jeremiah. The rest have gone on. I consume them. I simply could not control myself. Even now, the urge to feed, it is simply irresistible. March 7th, 1849. They're all dead. The ones still alive when the hunger won were far too weak to fight back. When I came for them, I feasted for hours, but I am still hungry. I need to eat. It needs to eat, and it will eat forever, because it has won. I have won. There's a life-sized roach motel on 45th. This time, there will be no escape for him. Looks like it's just you and me now, Mr. Fear.